At Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions, we believe in the power of community, faith, and action. With over 2,900 supporters, 225 faith communities, and 5 active advocacy hubs across Northern Virginia and the Commonwealth, we are united in our mission against climate change. Our advocacy efforts are based in the belief that local change can result in global impact. From Fairfax to the Shenandoah, our advocates have made significant strides supporting clean energy development and boosting community-wide action. At Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions, we believe that all voices are essential in this fight against climate change.
Power of Faith is about so much more than just reducing energy consumption. It's about empowering congregations to inspire others to do the same. With our recent $200,000 award from the Department of Energy Buildings Up program, we now have close to 20 congregations that are a part of the program. These congregations are reducing their costs, lowering their energy consumption, and most importantly, inspiring other congregations to do the same. Congregations that are a part of the Power of Faith program receive free resources like access to our webinars, which we host monthly. We cover topics like how to get an energy audit, how to reduce costs, and the financing options available. Congregations also receive free one-on-one coaching and peer-to-peer support as part of the program. We are transforming houses of worship into beacons of sustainability, and they are inspiring change locally, regionally, and nationally.
Tree of Life is our response to the climate and biodiversity crisis. It's urgent and it's scary, but we believe that there's still hope. By building green teams within faith communities, we're creating a network of faith leaders that are dedicated to implementing sustainable practices in and out of their congregations. We're talking about planting trees, native species, community gardens, removing invasives, embracing composting, zero waste events, and anything else that our congregations are passionate about. We couldn't do any of this without our partnerships with dedicated, local, boots-on-the-ground organizations like Plant Nova Natives, Northern Virginia Bird Alliance, Eco Action Arlington, and Nature Forward. We believe in supporting congregations to do the good work so that they can, in turn, protect all living things and feel empowered to become champions of change.
Good evening. So that was our premiere. That was the first time we've shown that video. So it's a little different. We're both, I think the staff were sitting there like cringing, but it's, we're getting used to it. So thank you for being our first audience. Welcome everyone. My name is Chris Topolesky. I'm the Executive Director here at Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions. And I'm thrilled to be here with you this evening at our 8th Climate Crisis Forum and our first focus on schools. I want to thank everyone who supported this event, especially our sponsor, Cox Business, and the Falls Church City Public Schools for this amazing venue. I also want to thank all the community partners who I hope you had a chance to meet out and visit with this afternoon, this evening, during our tabling. With the current crises and tragedies both here at home and abroad, it is important that we not lose hope, that the change we are making in our communities has a larger impact, that conversations like this one, this evening, can and will make a difference as we face the fact that we just experienced the hottest summer on record. Tonight we'll hear from 2 panels. The first, student climate activists, and the second, our school superintendents sharing how they are addressing sustainability and climate education in their respective districts. I'm honored to introduce tonight's moderator, Elaine Tully, former chair of the Fairfax County School Board, longtime educator, whose career has promoted and championed conservation and sustainability. Elaine, the forum is now yours.
Thank you, Chris. I'm thrilled to be here with the Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions. I guess it's been almost 15 years since we first partnered. I was working with Fairfax County Public Schools, and the Faith Alliance reached out to us, and Jeff Plattberg's in the back there. We partnered and come a long way. So thrilled to be here tonight. Thank you for all of you for coming out, and thank you to our students for being here. Our Fairfax County program was built on student action and student activity. So I'm thrilled to have our first set of speakers tonight be our students. So what I would like to do is meet our panel here this evening. What I thought we could do is have you each tell us your name, your school, and why working on climate change issues and action is important to you.
Hey, am I starting off?
Yes, you picked the hot seat.
Sounds like it. Okay, hi guys. I'm Naya, pronouns are she, her, and I'm a senior at HB Woodlawn here at Arlington Public Schools in neighboring county for this one. First off, thank you to everyone who has hosted, organized, and all of the awesome work to put this together. I'm super excited to be here, sit on this panel, and talk about some of the reasons why I'm involved. So I think the main thing that makes me excited to get involved with sustainability issues is an emphasis on focusing on my future. You'll see that a lot of the detrimental effects of global warming and climate change and loss of biodiversity will be directly impacting my generation in the future. So I wanted to be empowered and feel as engaged as I can to tackle these issues head on from a local perspective, from a national perspective, and even a global perspective, because I do believe that everything each and every one of us can do can matter, no matter how old or how young you are. As you can tell, as I am here sitting across with these brilliant other high schoolers today. So I think that's why I am involved.
So I am Brooks, and I am from Woodrow in Loudoun County. And I am, like her, I'm happy to be here today. I'm really thankful for this opportunity. And just kind of from a broad perspective, the reason that climate change is so important to me, I think it's pretty self-explanatory at this point because of how important it is to our future. We have one planet and one opportunity to live on it, really. So I think the condition that our generation has inherited in is one that it's just a reality we have to live with. And I think the question is less so why is it important? Because I think for us, I think that's pretty clear. But I think what matters the most is how we can get the public and everybody else on board with understanding why it's so important. Because clean air and environment and everything about that is key to our future, and it's the world that we live in.
Having me. I'm so happy that we have this panel and this opportunity for all the students and everyone else in Virginia to communicate about the importance of climate change. I think for me, I've stated climate action is important because I want to live in a world where storms and wildfires that we're currently seeing on the news are not the norm, and where my generation can enjoy the planet the way that our parents and our grandparents did. And now that we all are on this planet, it's the only one we have. It's our responsibility to protect it and improve it, to keep it healthy for the next generation, so the future of humanity does have stable climate.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Phineas. I attend Alexandria City High School, and the reason why I like sustainability-related stuff is just because it's a lot of fun, man. I mean, I like it's fun to garden and plant stuff. Save native birds, so that's it. Thanks, guys.
Hi, my name is Emily Merrow. I attend Meridian High School, and I'm a junior, so I attend the school that we are in right now. So I want to thank everyone for coming out and attending this event. I'm interested in sustainable activities, because I have lived in this city my entire life, and I think that being an active member of this city is really critical for making sure that future generations here have a really wonderful place to grow up in, just as I did, and also living in a very economically high, very rich area. I think that it's important to reach out beyond our own social bubble and reach out to others who are at higher risk of being put in danger because of the climate crisis. So, yeah.
Thank you to all of you. I do want to point out that we have several students sitting here that are actually alternates. We had more than just this panel of students here that would be amazing speakers here this evening. So I know you don't work alone in the sustainability work that you do in your schools and in your communities. And I know you could talk about this all night long, but could you please just briefly tell us some of the sustainability activities that you're involved in?
Okay, so buckle up, it's going to be a second. But at my school, I was the most shy little sixth grader, and I stumbled my way into Eric Young's classroom when I was just 11 years old, found my way into the Green Club, never left. And I was inspired by leadership in that club to continue building on it and growing on it, and when we came back from COVID in the 9th grade, I became the head of the club. We call ourselves the Green Team, great name I know. I thought of it myself, so thank you for that one. So with the Green Team, we have done everything from go and volunteer and clean up at our local streams and parks. We have gone and planted saplings and trees in hopes of having more oxygen for us and all the good stuff that goes along with planting trees, of course. We have done a lot of work to inform our own school community to just about issues that have to do with sustainability that the average folk may not know, such as what can go in the recycling bin, how we can compost, what you can do on a daily basis. So it's making information digestible for the general public. And then our most ambitious undertaking was a food waste audit last year. And alongside my green team and our sustainability coordinator and a bunch of teachers who were so gracious to help and give their support, we administered food waste audits to accurately gauge how much food waste our school system actually produces on a weekly basis in efforts to implement a composting program one day at HB. And alongside that project, there was a lot of trials and tribulations of undertaking of such a feat, and I'm really proud of how it went. And so this year we're pivoting towards outreach and advocacy using our data-driven project. And I also have partnered with the Arlington Students for Climate Action cohort to do more district and county-wide issues. It's anything from planting trees, but it's also upcycling and understanding to how we can say bye to fast fashion and support issues like a clothing swap, the first thing we've done in the past, and anything from like clothing swaps to food drives to moving showings with environmental projects. So yeah, I think that's what I'm involved in.
So in terms of sustainability-related activities that I'm involved in my club, in my school, I am the co-president of my school's environmental club, and DJ is here today as the vice president. And so in terms of sustainability-related activities at our school, we kind of like to come at it from a wide range of things. We've done things such as reforming and looking into our school's recycling program and how that works, whether it's doing enough. So we're hopefully going to make some progress on changing that, as well as working on planting trees and plants and reforming our school's campus. And along with things like composting, we've built a composter at our school for gardening and making us more sustainable. But I think the main goal that our club has is a little bit different. I think as great as all of those activities are, and they are very important, I think on the local community level, we really love doing that stuff, and I hope it feels like it makes a difference. But I think the most important thing is just spreading awareness to our fellow students and the school and about the state of our climate and how we can help. Because the reality of it is, these people here, we're the next generation that's going to inherit this planet, and the state that's left in is all we've got. So I think once these people grow up and become the next generation of world leaders that are going to be leading our planet, I think it's critical that at this stage we develop a real understanding for why this is so important and how we can help, because this is all we've got.
I met my friend Nathan, who's there in the audience, and when we started talking about climate change, we we started learning about all the different ways that we could get involved. We joined the International Climate Movement Fridays for Future and the Sunrise Movement, and we started getting involved with climate policy and FCPS and in DC. We've spoken and helped organize marches in DC, and in 8th grade we led weekly walk-ins in school to talk to and involve students about climate action. We lobbied for bills in the Virginia General Assembly supporting climate change, education in classrooms to get more students involved with the climate fight, and started advocating for solar panels and renewable energy on our schools. Last year, I led those weekly teach-ins at my high school to educate students about climate change, and I'm the secretary of my school environmental club. Last fall, we were delegates in the local conference of the youth, where we helped draft the National Youth Statement with policy suggestions to decision makers in the U.S. and at COP28, the United Nations Climate Conference. And here in our county, because I think over time we've learned that county climate action is very impactful and it's arguably the most effective. We're trying to have our county help them meet the JET goals that our county agreed to, which are sustainability goals like to get to carbon neutrality by 2040. Thank you for hosting this panel and inviting us.
So I kind of got into the whole sustainability thing through my garden club. I actually had a huge lawn mowing business before I started garden club, so it's kind of a bit into the system. But I'm a change man, and I got into the garden club. I'm sorry. They're really fun to use, but okay. So I got into the garden club, and we have a big composting program, and we're working on implementing a heck ton of natives right now. And yeah, and we also our school district opened a new campus, and so we're also getting some composting done there. And I'm also on the Envirocon team. Does anybody here go to Thomas Jefferson High School? You do? We're coming for your tail next year, all right? You guys are really good at Envirocon, but we're coming for you. Yeah. And Envirocon is kind of just the coolest program that there ever was. Basically, it's a national competition, much like Science Olympiad, where you just learn about different environmental stuff, and then you go compete, and you try and win. Every high school should have it.
So I got into sustainability through Science Olympiad. I was involved in the forestry event, in which you learn about trees and identifying them. And from that, I met one of my favorite teachers ever, Dr. Reward, who introduced me to the environmental club. And so from that, I got involved with the aquarium, which is like a subchapter of our environmental club, where raise native fish and create ecosystems of like different water systems in Virginia. And part of that is doing outreach to other schools. So we run this program called Trout in the Classroom, and we basically raise trout from eggs and we distribute them throughout, you release them into water after raising them, and it's really just about getting students involved with maintaining the world around them. A part of Environmental Club is also removing invasive species from on campus. Last year we did Earth Day, which students got the day off to help out around campus, gardened, we removed invasive species, and it was just a really good event to help students become more involved in the environment. So, yeah.
Fantastic. I'd like to hear what all the things going on across the span of Northern Virginia. It's exciting. So we invited lots of school district leaders here this evening. We'll be hearing from our superintendents in a few minutes. And we have lots of sustainability people and instructional people in the audience here. just thinking about it and all of the things that you're working on, how could the school district's leaders help you to attain the goals that you have in climate change action?
Great question. So I think it all boils down to the main three things of education, equity, and sustainability goals. So I'll talk about a little bit about each of them. Sustainability in the way of being mindful when building new facilities to incorporate sustainable practices within those buildings. My building is a new building. It's been about 5 years, maybe not that new, but new for me. So we have a lot of environmentally conscious efforts within our school because the designers did take that intention when building it. So I think it's super important as leaders in the district to consider this more environmental perspective when implementing these multi-million-dollar facilities. So the next point I'd like to touch on is education. I think a few of my other panelists touched on this earlier, but climate change is somewhat of an invisible issue in this area. We are very privileged to have lived in a space where we don't have to feel the direct ramifications of global warming and other disasters. We don't have to worry about our land sliding off into the river, such as folks in Mississippi might have to. So, we may think that we don't have a part to play because we don't see it happen every day. But education from a district-wide perspective to ensure that folks realize that everything you can do will and can matter is super important. And my last point is equity, and by this I mean inviting a diverse panel of stakeholders to actually give their input when it comes to deciding these actions and things we can do to mitigate these issues. Clearly, we are all high schoolers and we are heavily involved, and it's important to include high schoolers and folks of all different backgrounds, demographics, and experience levels in the conversation. And I think those are the things I would say to call on folks in this room to consider.
So I think in terms of our school district, I think this event alone has been super hope-inspiring for me. I think it's super cool to see all these different organizations and different groups and all this stuff going on. So I think just based off of this alone, one of the main ways that I think our county and the administrators in our school districts can help is just by making sure that these opportunities and these connections are prominent, because a lot of these great organizations, these are the first times that I'm hearing about them, and I think I know that our school has people and the resources who are willing and interested in this kind of stuff. So I think just making sure that these opportunities can surface, I think is just the most basic way that we can kind of take a step forward. We had also talked about how in some areas in the country, and even Virginia, environment-based courses are required for graduation, and where we go to school, that is not. So I think, touching on what I was talking about earlier, how the most important thing is that this next generation understands our problem, understands what's coming. I think if we, in some way, made an environmental-based class mandatory and just, really putting it out there is just the most important thing we can do. Because, like I said, this is the only shot we've got, and I think that having those opportunities prominent and really pushing more, instead of kind of keeping environmental science and environmental club as something of a niche, smaller community, I think making it as big of a deal as it really is for the rest of the world is the most important thing that we can do.
And these goals are a great step forward in ensuring that the climate action we need to see in our county happens. But in addition to that, I think student involvement is really important because, as you can see here, students we want to be involved, we want to help make change. We just need the opportunities for us to get involved. I think we need to emphasize the reality of the crisis and give students ways to take action aside from individual lifestyle changes. So when there are public comment or community meetings just like this, we'd like to see administration and the board try to involve students through the programs already in the community, like the Get to Green program and FCPS, newsletters, or directly reaching out to school environmental clubs. With the help of teachers, we can get climate change in the classroom. We can have students learning about all the things that we need to do about sustainability. And we would like to see maybe a green jobs program for high schoolers for the changing job market, similar to the academy classes offered at some schools, and find opportunities with federal programs such as the newly established Civilian Climate Corps. And recently, at the start of the school year, Nathan and I made a video to all the science teachers in FCPS about the importance of teaching climate change in classrooms. So just emphasizing the importance of getting students involved in this topic that will affect us for the rest of our lives will be super helpful in helping us move forward in sustainability. And lastly, in addition to getting students involved, to actually cut carbon emissions, we need to start implementing things like solar panels on schools and electric buses. FCPS has already started a Solar on Schools initiative, but we know that new legal setbacks and funding are a challenge. So we'd like to see the county use the benefits of the Inflation Reduction Act to get schools renovated to be ready to be net zero. And finally, electric school buses. FCPS is committed to 100% net zero student transportation by 2035. And this is an ambitious goal that we'd like to see happen. So to help meet these goals, we'd like to see a plan from the school board or facilities department on how to acquire these buses and fund them, and make sure that every student can get to school on a bus that's clean, doesn't pollute, and is better for the environment. Thank you.
All right, so just a little joke here. Remember I told you that I'm from Alexandria and I had a lawn mowing business? All right, so I planted some natives outside of our garden, and it was like this huge grass base. It's called chinkapin, and I planted some natives there. Guess what happened? City of Alexandria ran over all my native plants, but it's okay. Something that I do have to say is that all of the involvement that I've had in sustainable related activities have kind of just come from my own self-direction, is that I want to do this because it looks fun. However, I like doing it, but I also see people who do stuff like DECA and, the medical health people. They have all their national clubs and stuff. So it's like, and they're a lot larger participated in, right? So environmental clubs in like our garden club is not that well participated in as opposed to other clubs. And we actually, this year we were like, all right, we're gonna bump it up. We're gonna try a lot harder. We went ham at the club fair and we had 15 people. So we're growing. But also, I don't know, I guess we need some sort of like national club that people are interested in. I don't know. I do grassroots stuff. I don't know too much about. Like, your money helps though. We applied for a grant this year and we got it, so thank you.
So in terms of sustainability, Meridian High School has this Sustainability in Action program, which allows students to record their actions and volunteer hours and how they relate to sustainability and get like awards for that. And while this is an incredible program, very little people in our school know about it, of which I think is an issue. I found a lot of the activities and volunteer opportunities myself. I went out and looked for them, but I understand in this world, students are busy all the time, and it's really hard for students to find these opportunities. So I think giving students opportunities to excel and be active in sustainability will definitely promote them to look into sustainability in the future. And also part of that is working to add sustainability into education. So relating lessons to the real world, like in biology, how like our ecosystems can benefit from things that we do in our school. And I think just putting out the fact that every little thing that a student does matters is something that we can use to promote sustainability in our own schools. So, yeah.
Thank you so much to each and every one of you for the work that you do, the passion that you bring to it, and for being willing to share. It's so important for all of us to hear from these amazing young people. So with that, we are concluding our student panel. We have a little bit of a transition. Our students will move off the stage, and then we'll be miking up our superintendents to come on up, and we'll hear from them. Thank you, thank you. Mention a couple of key points that I picked up from what our students had to say. Dr. Reed, do you want to come on up? I have always felt in all the work that I've done with students that students always make a huge difference, and no matter what the age of students, they can always rise to the occasion. So I think we've really seen here tonight, we've got high school students, but I've even seen 2-year-olds, rise to the occasion when we're building native gardens or, whatever we need to get done. Also, they brought up a number of times sharing across jurisdictions, which we're doing here this evening across all of Northern Virginia. And I think that is so important too. And I hope the Faith Alliance will continue helping school districts share this kind of information across all of Northern Virginia. Awareness came up a number of times. We're, of course, working on that here this evening. But even within the school districts, if there are just additional opportunities for students to be able to make other students aware of the work that they're doing, I think that will be very important as well. They mentioned Science Olympiad and Envirothon, 2 amazing organizations. Please promote those in your school districts. They do amazing work with our kids, and they're great partners to have. All right, here we go. Welcome. Come on over. I think we have an extra chair. We have an extra chair.
Oh, we have an extra chair?
Oh, okay.
That's fine. Okay.
Okay.
We're all set here.
Well, bright up here.
All right. Well, here we have our superintendents from 4 of our area school districts. I mentioned to a couple of them that I figured out how long I've actually been doing this work, and that I actually have had the opportunity to meet personally all 4 of these superintendents over the years. Dr. Duran is here from currently with Arlington, and we work together at Fairfax County Public Schools. And so I worked with you both as a staff member of CPS and a board member. So great to see you this evening. Dr. Spence, I mentioned I probably met you long ago, 2014, at a Green Schools conference in Virginia Beach, where they did an amazing job sharing with people across the whole country the work that they were doing in Virginia Beach. So welcome here. And Dr. Noonan, we met in FCPS also many years ago when I first got into instructional services. And I have to say a thank you to you for at that point in time when myself, Dwayne Young, Myra Thayer showed up, you didn't say no. And so Get to Green, came out of all of that work. And Dr. Reed, I've had the good fortune of working with Dr. Reed during my time as a board member in FCPS. So thrilled to have all of you here this evening. Now it's serving in the roles that you have across our Northern Virginia region. So with that, we had a very inspiring group of young people up here, and I know all of you have worked many years in education with young people, and I'm sure have been inspired along the way by so many young people. I was wondering if you could tell us just a little bit about what inspires you to do sustainability work in your school district based upon, some of these young people and things you've heard from them.
So I think it was remarkably inspiring. So thank you for taking time this evening to be here. I think we talk a lot about showing up being really important. I also want to thank our board. We have several board members here. Our board chair, Carl Frisch in the back, Mr. Frisch, and Sandy Anderson, our vice chair, and some of our elected officials. I know Jimmy Bierman here is one of our board of supervisors, and just I think nothing really happens unless you have folks at that policy level enacting and insisting and resourcing policy initiatives because it's really important. And I think the students reminded us this evening that there's important and urgent, right? And this is both. And likely, I think, doesn't get the attention perhaps that it should across student interest groups, right? I think there was a poignant comment about that. But it's really, I think, part of our responsibility to try to figure out how best to lift this work up and keep it in that public space because we know it's critical. The world we hand off to this next generation is not in a better place than we inherited it. So I think we have not as much time ahead of us to try to remedy some of the concerns, and we owe it to our young people. So I'm excited about the opportunities and appreciate their thinking. So thank you. Yep.
Thanks again for having us here to talk. Really, I think just even tonight, listening to our students, it's their enthusiasm, their courage, their foresight that just inspire me each and every day to think about what can we do to create environments and spaces for them to thrive and teach us. And I think that's one of the best part about being in education is that we learn from our students just as much as we hope to provide them knowledge. And thinking about the work ahead, and they're, as they said tonight, they're the next generation. So what are we doing as adults to create a better space? I always remember my first teaching 31 years ago. My principal said, when you come in, you got to leave your classroom, leave our school better than when you came before. What are you going to do at the end of the year? This is what our students are trying to do, not only for themselves. And what's inspiring that we heard from them tonight is their commitment not just to their local community, not to their county, not even to the Commonwealth, but to the nation and to the world about creating space for positive energy around climate knowledge. And so that's what really inspires me to do the work that we're doing. And also, I think what's important is each and every day when we talk with our students and we see these types of stories and the actions that they've done, it really creates a sense of urgency amongst us as adults to even consider what are we doing? What are we contributing? And then finally, I think that it's important as we hear the different actions that they do, it's a reminder that small change can make a difference. And I know I have students present to me and teachers who present to me that work in our sustainability projects that talk about what is the impact. And that's part of the work we do in terms of an APS. We're really focused on what is the impact and what data can you show. And then being able to share that over and over again is something that I think is very beneficial. So it's their courage, it's their excitement, and it's their sense of urgency that they leave with me each and every day.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's, I think if you listen to our students, they'll tell you what matters to them, and they've shared some of that tonight. And I think, as Michelle said, we've created some problems for them to fix. And one of the things that I hear a lot when I talk to students, and we heard a little bit of it tonight even from our friend from Woodgrove, is we need to do more to prepare them to address some of these problems. And they're asking for that, and they want that connection to their learning and what that means in terms of how they can make a change in the world. I had the opportunity in Virginia Beach to work with the Chesapeake Bay Foundation to build an environmental studies program right there at their Brock Environmental Center. And what I learned in that moment was if you build it, they will come, right? Like if you create the opportunity, the students will seize the opportunity, and what they'll do is they'll just kind of blow you away with their willingness to engage, their willingness to really begin to study and understand what the challenges are and devise solutions that they can take action on. And you heard some of that tonight. I mean, you heard about going to the General Assembly and lobbying for policy and legislative changes. You heard people just talking about making simple changes inside of their building, the behavioral changes that we know are essential for sustainable practices. And I stay inspired by kids all the time because they're not just thinking about it in a textbook sense, right? They understand the problems in front of us and they want to be a part of the solution. And our responsibility is to figure out how to allow that to happen, how to harness that energy. And the other thing I would just say about this is, and I think the adults in the room understand this, is kids don't believe you if you won't practice it yourself. Right? And so we can sit here and say sustainability matters, these practices matter, and if we don't engage as systems leaders and the adults in the system don't practice sustainable practices and think about how to change our work, kids are going to look at us and understand that we're not really meaning what we say. And so we have an obligation too, and I learned from them when I talked to them about that. You know, a kid will ask you, or a student will ask you, well, why aren't you interested in green building practices if you're not interested in green building practices? And so that's the other inspiration I think we have to take from our students.
Good evening. I'm Peter Noonan, Superintendent of Schools here in the City of Falls Church, and welcome to our new building. I just want to first and foremost thank the panel of the students that were up here, especially Emily Marrow from Meridian High School. You all were incredibly inspiring, and I think one of the things that all of us as I would say, on balance, successful leaders, I think we've all done a pretty reasonable job through our careers that we carry with us, is that we lead by being led. And the voices that we should be led by are the students that we're serving each and every single day. And so when I heard the students talking this evening about education first, equity, making sure that it is an equity issue in the end, and this notion of sustainability and putting on events and making sure that we weave into some of our work these environmental-based courses. But in the end, one of the things that I heard too is sort of this idea of what gets monitored gets done. And how are we monitoring the work that we're doing? So I guess to answer your question, what I'm moved by mostly are our students. But I'm also, it's not lost on me that we have another Category 5 hurricane bearing down on Florida right now that's being fueled by really hot water in the Caribbean. And at the same time, we're still digging out of Western North Carolina and Georgia and other parts of the country that were hammered just 2 weeks ago by another hurricane. So we are at a critical moment, and it is a crisis moment for all of us. And so when I think about the work that we need to do, it's not just being responsive to the students, but it's also being responsive to the children that will come after our students and for the generations to come. And picking up on something that was mentioned, I think, by Michelle and both Francisco as well, is that this is not something that we can do in isolation. I think it's something that we have to do as part of a collective and a community, and it needs to be done through policy making and policy decision making, and putting our money where our mouth is. And so we too have a couple of school board members here tonight. We've got our vice chair, Kathleen Tice, and school board member, Bethany Henderson. But we also have our vice mayor here, Debbie Hiscott, as well. And I just want to shout them out because this year, maybe not for the first time, but there's been a real focus on sustainability in the City of Falls Church in a way that's uniquely different than I've seen it before, to the extent that we're developing policy at the city council and at the school board level to really make substantive changes through a sustainability action plan. And now we get to see, do we mean it? As we, and all four of us are heading into the budget cycle here pretty soon, with our boards and with our funding bodies. And I would propose that each of us are going to have something in that budget that is going to be focused on sustainability and climate. And it will be a good conversation for all of us to have with our boards and our bodies that fund those budgets. But in the end, I really appreciate our kids coming up here and sharing what they're doing, because if our elected officials and those of us that represent those elected officials, to the extent that we're school superintendents, can carry out their vision for what the future can look like, I think we're in really good shape. So I'm inspired by them.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, really taking care of that next generation and the generation after that, and after that, that whole seventh generation idea is key. And this is a great segue, thank you, Dr. Noonan, into if you could tell us about, every one of the school districts represented up here has some amazing work that they are doing around sustainability and environmental education. So could you tell us about maybe a recent accomplishment or two in this area that you're especially proud of?
Well, thank you, Elaine. And I just want to take a point of privilege to honor Elaine Tolan for really beginning this work in Fairfax County many, many years ago. So it's been a pleasure. And I think having a vision and acting on it are two different things sometimes, and you've been able to combine both. So just really thank you for that. And we have staff here which really have been doing this work. So I know we have a number of our staff here, but I'm really proud of the work our staff has done, our central office staff, and again, our commitment from the board. We support 300 staff Get to Green leaders in our schools, and in the last couple of years also have supported stipends for those positions. And Noelle Klemenko and the team met, and Jana Szymanski today, with us as we were talking about the work plan for this year. And just really excited about the support. Our central office team is providing 650 hours of direct support to our schools. And we're working on recycling, composting. Our FACS partners have been really thoughtful in supporting that work, adjusting the types of utensils in cafeterias, removing plastic straws, just increasing our awareness. We have to be aware to act, right? We're especially proud of, I know there were 58 green flag recognitions provided by eco schools around the country, and 22 of those schools are in Fairfax County. So that's proud work from our staff. We also have, our facilities team is here tonight, and Jeff Plattenberg, who's been a key part of that when he was supporting that work in Fairfax writ large. We're a 2024 Energy Star Partner of the Year for Sustained Excellence, 72 Energy Star schools, and 187 Energy Star certified buildings in Fairfax County. So we're very proud of that. And we've realized $12 million in energy savings for FY23 and nearly $96 million since FY 2013. Also transportation. We have the largest EV school bus fleet in Virginia with 28 buses currently and 105 by the end of the school year. And I know our students can do the math even faster than anyone in the room, but for our current fleet of 28 students, that's 252 short tons per year of carbon dioxide that we've saved from the atmosphere, or over 500,000 pounds of carbon dioxide per year. That's incredible, really, when you stop and think about that. Yeah. So just a lot of excitement, I think, about energy. And I know Sean is here from our food service as well, just composting initiatives. So just excited, right, about this. So anyhow, thank you. That's correct.
That was more than two things.
Did you say two things?
You got a lot going.
A couple.
You got a lot going on.
Well, if it's a couple for every staff member that came tonight, I'm really proud of the team for coming. There are a lot of folks who have this work can't happen in isolation, right? Our PTA lead too, Debbie Kilpatrick, is here, and this is one of those topics that touches everyone on the planet. Everything I do affects you, and everything we do here affects some other county. Like we can't get away from this. It's all of us. So, yeah.
Well, since you opened up with more than two, I'm going to share more than two.
Yeah, sorry. Why don't you do something?
But really, really proud in Arlington about our commitment and intentionality of the work, and it's something that when I became superintendent, I was very impressed to see the lot of work and intentionality that was put into a couple of things that I'll share, and really the great partnership we have with our county government. I see our two county board members here, Susan Cunningham in the back, and here in the middle, Matt DuFerranti, who've also been key leaders in helping us. Please give them a round of applause. Key leaders in helping us set, I think from the beginning this past year, we set a new strategic plan forward where we built in actual goals and objectives and metrics around sustainability and environmental, and our the co-chair of that, Kathleen Clark's in the back, who led our strategic plan work. Thank her for her leadership there. Working with the county on the environment plan. And so that's one thing I think is important, setting goals, setting metrics. Beyond that, here's some things I'm really proud of in Arlington. We have 2 net zero schools, the very first one in the Mid-Atlantic region, Discovery Elementary, and the second, Fleet Elementary, which is the largest elementary in the United States for square footage for net zero schools. Really proud of that. And also we have 10 of our schools that now have full solar panels that work on it. And each of those, thank you. Because of that effort in those 10 schools that are doing that, last year, over 3,000 megawatt hours of electricity were saved. In our 2 net zero elementary schools, they operate 1/10 of the cost of our other elementary schools based on the energy that's generated from those two schools. In addition, see our head of facilities and design and construction in the back, Jeff Chambers, and the team with him, thinking about any new buildings that we build. That's built into our specs and in our work that we do with our contractors. We're building a new facility at Grace Hopper Center, the Career Center, and that's built into all of the work there. We also have sustainability liaisons that we are funded. Staff members, I see one here from Thomas Jefferson Middle School, and they do a lot of work. Last year they did over 27 different division-wide recycling projects, over 28 different environmental projects to find ways to bring down various climate change issues in the neighborhoods in those schools. And there was another thing I'm really proud of that they did is they harvested over 5,800 pounds of food that they grew and donated to local communities and local nonprofits to serve that food. So really helping our students to find a way and our staff to find a way to bring that back into the environment and right into their community. Also, like Michelle said, we're focused on transportation. We have 2 electric buses currently operating. We have 3 more that are on order. And then through the partnership with the county, we are able to start 2 years ago an iRide program for our high school students who are able to ride the county buses for free, to encourage our high school students to not use transportation in their own vehicles, but to use, and that was a partnership with the county. So thinking about ways that we are not just saying and setting goals, but we're putting into action some of those things. And then I think what I'm really, really proud of too that I have to share, I know it's more than 2, Peter, sorry, is some of the partnerships that we have with our nonprofits, our Master Gardeners, the Eco Action Arlington, the Smithsonian, who come in and partnered with our science department. I see the head of our science here, Dr. Dot Lee, coming in and helping us think about ways that we can build into the curriculum actual learning across all subjects, not just in science. And we put a big effort this past year into looking at how we build environmental education into literacy, into the books we choose. Even into PE, I went to visit a PE classroom where they were learning some physical activities and connecting it to some of the environmental learning. So I'm very, very proud of that, and I think that it's we're all focused on here. How do we make sure our buildings are used in a way that are environmental education centers? And so when we design these buildings, they're not just net zero. There's a variety of parts of the building where students can go learn about the environment we've built into a variety of ways. And so I'm really proud of that, and I look forward to more and being challenged by our students to think about different ways we can do more. But it comes from being intentional, starting at the top through our strategic plan, working with our county partners, thinking about our budget, thinking about any dollars that we spend and any new facilities that we build, and thinking about the types of materials we use in those buildings to make sure that they're truly environmentally friendly and sustainable in a way that's going to help our students not only just hear from us, as I think was said here, one of my colleagues, it's not just the words we say, but the actions that we're doing each and every day.
Well, I hope what you're hearing is the holistic approach to thinking about sustainable practices across our school divisions. And so I don't want to repeat a lot of things, but I would say similarly. So, I mean, I've just finished up my first year in Loudoun County, so I'm just into my second year, and I inherited a very thoughtful, sustainable practices program in our facilities team. They've been for years engaged in thinking about how do we save energy and how do we create behavioral change. Now what we're doing is we're thinking, okay, how do we press forward? How do we press forward in terms of our practices, not just with regards to our facilities, but thinking, as others are, about our transportation fleet, and so greening our fleet, looking at our white fleet, looking at our buses, looking at our distribution fleet. How do you bring more electric in? How do you bring clean propane in? I mean, so what are the different alternatives and options that are available to us? And we were very fortunate. Mid-year last year, I was able to convince our school board to bring on a director of sustainability, Clark Siped, who's back in the room here with us, who's incredibly enthusiastic in the work. And, you know, I've always thought as a superintendent, you have to have people who get up in the morning and that is the thing they think about, right? If you have that, you can get a lot of good things done. And that is what she does. She gets up and she thinks about this and is pressing us to think about things like, well, it's great that we have these building practices, but have we measured and thought about our carbon footprint? And if we don't know what the baseline of that is, how do we have metrics to reduce that? And so she's engaging our division right now in a greenhouse inventory where we will be able to establish those metrics. And so I think it's thinking through what are those next things. And then I would say the big connection for us is then what are we asking our students to do? What are our young folks doing? And they're doing amazing things. I mean, I'm sure every one of us has these incredible stories. I mean, we have a middle school where the kids are building benches out of mushrooms. And they're doing that to demonstrate that by using mycelium instead of plastic, you can create sustainable and renewable products that we use in everyday life. I mean, incredible things like that happening. So how do we keep pressing and not let those be one-offs, right? And one of the things that I've always been passionate about are the MeWes, right? Like these watershed experiences that we think kids should have. And so we're working now with a cohort of people to develop my goal, my vision, our goal, our vision is that every kid, every grade level, every year has a meaningful watershed experience out in our communities, right? And so how do you build those into your curriculum? Well, you bring a bunch of teachers into the room and you say, what would that look like in our curriculum? And you let them build it. And so that's what Clark is now leading for us. And then thinking, you know, even more deeply with our students about what are some of the other opportunities. So piloting green teams, as some of you have talked about it. And so piloting green teams across our schools to engage teachers and students in making action plan. And then frankly, putting some money behind that. To say, you know, somebody mentioned grants that might be available, but putting some school division money behind that and saying, we want you to develop an action plan around sustainable practices and we will fund it, but we want it to be driven in the community. So anyway, I think our, you know, my enthusiasm lies in what's next, you know? So we've done some great work. Let's not rest on that. Let's think about the next thing that we can do to continue to bring this kind of learning and progress into our classrooms and in a really holistic sense across our division.
Just so everybody feels better, I have more than two things to do.
Okay.
I was just kidding. But I say that sort of tongue-in-cheek, but the truth of it is, for me, when I think about things that we're really proud of, I'd be remiss if I didn't say where we're sitting right now. This building, I'll just very quickly tell you, when I took the job in Falls Church City 8 years ago, there had been some discussions about a new high school, and during my welcome speech, I said, I'm so excited to build a new high school, and I about got laughed out of the building because they'd been talking about it for so long, and we were very fortunate, and this is just sort of a really good reminder, I think, in some ways that you can get creative around some of these things. So this building actually was built as part of a PPA sorry, not a PPA, that's a power purchase agreement, but a public-private partnership. So when you leave the building tonight and you look across the street, one of the things that you'll see is you'll see some development. That development is where our old high school used to sit. And so what we did is we made a deal with the general government and the City of Falls Church that we would give some of our land for the school to the general government to do some development in exchange for some of that tax funding that came in from the development to pay for our new high school. And we were able to model it sufficiently to where we were able to convince not just the city council, the school board, the general government, the schools, that this was going to work. But when we went out to a bond, the bond passed 2-to-1, and we were able to get a bond for $120 million, where most of that will be paid for by the development next door for this high school. So when we got into the development of this high school, it was really important to many in our community. One person's here tonight that I do want to shout out. It's Tim Stevens. Tim was incredibly supportive and kept us really focused on the idea that this really needs to be a unique and different high school. And Francisco and Arlington and others have built some really cool schools, including Discovery and some others, but we use those as sort of models for us. So this building, when it went up, first of all, you might notice that it's a 7-story building because it's on a much smaller footprint than a larger sprawling high school, which created some really unique, interesting opportunities for us from the get-go, but allowed us to use some field space that we added to do a full geothermal field. So we've got geothermal fields out there. And when you put geothermal into a building, it means that there's no rooftop units. So we have a greenfield space on the roof then to develop a big array, PV array, to help offset the cost of electrical here in the building. So we built a net zero ready geothermal LEED Gold building that we now have PV arrays on the roof. I wish that it was during the day because we would love to show you around to see. We also, through the work of some of our students here, like Emily, have developed a sustainability self-guided tour. So you can go through the building and click on QR codes and it'll take you from where the geothermal system is in the basement to information about the PV arrays, to all kinds of information about stormwater management. We have very few underground cisterns. Most of it is through green roofs that we have, in addition to other stormwater management. So I think when I think about what we're really proud of, this building is something that we're incredibly proud of here in the City of Falls Church, and one that I think in many ways can serve us not only into the future as an example of what could be for the rest of our community, but for us it really became, and sort of picking up on what Francisco said, a leverage point for us for instruction. We have, and you know, one of the things that we're also sort of proud of is we're one of 7 school divisions in the country that is a pre-K through 12 international baccalaureate school division. Our curriculum is really rooted in the IB, from the PYP to the MYP to the DP. And so when we built this building, we decided, how do we now incorporate the 16 UN sustainability goals into our IB curriculum? So we rewrote much of our curriculum to integrate sustainable ideas from the UN into that work. And so that was really important to us as well. And then the last thing that I'm really proud of, and again, if we had more time and we could walk around and I could show you, we have an incredible growing space. We do vertical farming here. We have fish, we have trout, we have hydroponics here as well. And we're really trying to build sort of a sustainability academy almost. But what we've ended up doing, because building an academy requires partnerships, and partnerships are complicated, but what we've been able to do is to develop a curriculum about sustainable thinking, integrating those UN sustainability goals, and then allowing students to pick off some of these courses that are now associated with our IB career path CP program, like power and energy and some of these others that students can take. So And all of that's under the leadership of our teacher of the year in the City of Falls Church. Her name is Tosin Adetoro. Unfortunately, I don't see Tosin in the room, but Tosin is an incredible leader in the field of STEM and STEAM and sustainability. So we've got a lot going on here that is sort of complementary to all the things that you've heard, I think, from other superintendents as well. The uniqueness of the City of Falls Church is that this division by student population is smaller than the high school where I was a principal. So, so we get to do some things that are a little bit flexible, more flexible than maybe some other places, but some really good stuff going on here that we'd love to invite you back and come see at some point.
Thank you. Well, just so no one feels bad, during our planning calls, getting ready for this evening, there was at one point when someone said on the call, Eileen, what are you going to do if the superintendents have really short answers and they don't talk enough? Like, do you need a lot of extra questions? And I assured them that was not going to be a problem. I know these people. No. And it's just so heartwarming, maybe isn't quite the right word, but so inspiring too to hear all of the variety of things going on. There's a lot of similarities, there are some differences, and I know you tried to highlight different things than what your other colleagues had talked about. But I also know that behind all the things that you've been talking about, I know that staff members have visited, your different districts. We've had lots of people touring your net zero schools. We've had our academy folks have been over learning about the Sustainability Academy here. The not-for-profits share information. There's so much going on between not-for-profits in Fairfax and Loudoun around this topic area as well. So I think we're just really highlighting here this evening how much those conversations really need to keep happening and how important they are so that we don't reinvent the wheel and we keep this all moving forward for all of us and keep the students talking to each other as well. So with that, one of the questions I would like to ask you is if there's just something that you could think of that your district has accomplished or a challenge that your district has had in trying to do all of this work that you have been able to overcome that you might like to share with the other districts or jurisdictions, that would be a good kind of lesson learned.
So I'll practice brevity and select a challenge. But I think for us, it was really providing thoughtful support at scale. So I think that's where these Get to Green school-based teams became the strategy. And our central office then was kind of like the hub that went out in spokes, right, to every school. And the Get to Green, our 200 leads across the system, or 300, I guess, leads across the system, are able to come together, like at the beginning of the year, to have one kickoff and really begin to align the work. So that's been a challenge, was just having the work come to scale. I think Aaron mentioned too, kind of not having one-off, projects, but really trying to provide a rich experience across all schools. And how we really, I think, addressed that was with our Get to Green teams and Get to Green leads. That's brief. Thank you. Yeah.
I think for us in Arlington, it's something I shared a little bit in my last answer, but one thing that many of you know, if you know Arlington the last 10 years, it grew 29% in terms of the student population. And the challenge was with a large growing population, with costs for building new facilities, and then the impact of what that might mean. There was a misnomer and a misunderstanding that if we were to engage in sustainability practices around our facilities, that it would cost us even more. And we had a lot more costs to attain to by more staff, et cetera. When in fact, with all of the work that we've been able to accomplish, we've done it within budget and we're saving money. And that, I think, is something that is a challenge that internally there was a lot of questions and concerns, and now how do we share that with others as an example of success? With the increase of 29% population in the last 10 years, our carbon the impact on the carbon that we've been putting out has been 23% less. So we've been reducing that while growing and while also operating schools, as I mentioned, that are less in terms of the economic challenge on our budgets. So I think that is the biggest misnomer, I think, out there, that often if you're going to engage in environmental practices and sustainability, that you're going to obviously need to explode your budget. And now you're going to need to find more funding. And that was something that when I came in, it was already on a track, but something that we're continuing to do, to think about ways. And so that's probably the biggest challenge that I would say that we've overcome. And I hope it's one that anyone else who's hoping to engage in this will recognize there's a financial benefit. Of course, we know the other benefits we heard from our students, but from us as particular, those of us as superintendents, we have to manage, as it was said here, budgets, and we have to be mindful of citizens and taxpayer dollars, and how do we use this in a way to really help educate that this is cost efficient and it's the right thing to do.
So, and I think that's right. And again, sort of taking the holistic view of that, in general, and it does depend on the community, but in general, one of the first challenges you have to overcome is helping people see why this matters, right? You have to get people to engage in and have a conversation about why is it important to think about sustainable practices in our facilities, in our transportation fleets, in our food services programs, in our budgeting and procurement practices, and then why is it important that we think about this in our schools, in our curriculum, and in the opportunities that our students have to engage in the conversation. And I think that's the crux of it. I mean, I've worked in a lot of different school divisions, and in some communities, you couldn't really even talk about sustainability, right? It was that's not a real thing, that's not necessary. Why would you want to spend money in that arena? Why would you want to spend time on that? That's not what's on the SOLs. Those kinds of conversations that sometimes you have to engage in. And so I think, the way to land on that and to overcome that, I mean, there's a couple of different things. One is thinking about, the triple bottom line, right? So the idea of the economic, the social, and the environmental. And if you can make the case on any one of those, you'll get people on board, right? So some people want to know the economic reasons to do it. Some people deeply care about the environmental reasons to do it. And then other people are thinking about the social reasons behind this, right? Like, how does it create empathy? How does it help build that sense of community? And so I think it's important that we're able to tell the story in a lot of different ways in our community so that people can be on board for these conversations. And then again, more holistically, not just about why do you want to do it with your buildings, although it's incredibly important, but why do you want kids to be thinking about this? And why should I be asking kids to leave their classrooms and go trudge around in a creek or a stream near their school and do water quality testing? Why does that matter? Why would that be important? And I think just being willing to engage in those conversations and, again, hire somebody who gets up and thinks about this every day. That is a challenge that we all have to get over as well. It's okay to hire people in your central office. I know some people don't think it is, but it is, especially if they're doing things like thinking about sustainability for you all the time.
I think there are a couple things that, in terms of accomplishments that I think have been really helpful in our work. And one is alignment, sort of bottom to top, top to bottom, around this notion of why. And I know that we're sort of in a unique bubble a little bit, insofar as we don't necessarily have some of the same noise in the City of Falls Church as other places might. But the fact that our city council, that our school board, our curriculum writers and our teams and our parents and our students are aligned around the notion of we've got to do something around sustainability in the climate crisis makes life a whole lot easier. And so being able to, again, sort of pass that sustainability action plan that puts some teeth into it has been really helpful. But for me, as a school leader, and I'll speak for probably everybody up here, is when you can get your entire staff to sort of get organized around something, it's a trick, right? It doesn't happen very often. And the fact that most of our teachers are engaged in working on these 16 UN sustainability goals within their curriculum, where they can make it fit as part of their work, is really something that, that is super cool and really fun to watch. And so when we do these expositions as part of our International Baccalaureate program at 5th grade and at 8th grade and at 10th grade, and then there's a big essay that our seniors write, we've seen a real pivot to what some of those are about. And there's a lot more now about the climate crisis. There's a lot more about sustainable energy. There's a lot more about sustainable food sources and economies and the like. And that really, I think, is reflective of the incredible work. The one thing I would say that's a challenge for us, and I don't know if I'm leading you down your last question or not, but one of the challenges that I think not we as school superintendents necessarily have to face, but something we're going to have to grapple with at a city and county level are, and I'll use this as an example, permitting fees, right? So when we got into a power purchase agreement with SunTribe, and when SunTribe was putting our PV arrays on the roof here, they said, we'll never do anything in the city of, well, that's not exactly what they said. Let me walk that back. Here's what they said. If we had to do this project again, we wouldn't have done it. And we wouldn't have done it because the fees to be able to get the permits done to do this work were so high. And it cuts into their bottom line. So again, it's one of those things where policy and budget and decision making all sort of need to come together, because if we're making it too hard for these companies to put PV arrays on our roof and it's cutting into their bottom line, we're sort of shooting ourselves in the foot. So how do we work together on that as a challenge?
Well, I think I'm getting the signal that we need to wrap up. So you're probably off the hook on that last question. But I do want to thank each and every one of you for your strategic vision. I think that came out very clearly for all of us. And I know someone mentioned too, you're about to go into your, budget season here in Virginia. So, strategic planning, budgeting, all of that fits together. And I appreciate all the hard work that goes with that and the vision that goes with it. And a huge thank you also to the elected officials and the county officials that are here, the city officials that are here, because school districts cannot do this alone. So thank you to partnering, thank you for partnering and doing this hard work. And a huge thank you to all the not-for-profit partners as well. And the biggest thank you to our students. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
I see 5 budding school board members.
At least.
And I want to say thank you to our moderator, Elaine Tolan. I am Scott Peterson, Board Chair of Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions. I want to thank our student panelists in particular tonight, Naya Chopra from Arlington, Phineas Wolf from Alexandria, Aria Lee from Fairfax County, Brooks Franson from Loudoun County, and Emily Morrow from Falls Church City Schools. I also want to say a special thanks to Dr. Reed, Dr. Spence, Dr. Noonan, and Dr. Who did I leave out? Duran, I'm sorry. You guys moved around. Thank you for coming tonight. Every day we're hit with more bad news about climate change. Too bad more people don't know about the great work that's being done in our public schools here in Northern Virginia. We are a leader in Virginia due to these people. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming.